The main character of the story is Seo Juhyun, who is a 38-year-old guy who finds himself in a hopeless situation from which he sees no other way out except death. He is attacked from all sides by terrible monsters, whose eyes burn with rage and the desire to kill, and the hero is annoyed that his end is so stupid, in his opinion. It all started with the fact that in 2025, mysterious tombs suddenly appeared all over the earth, the appearance of which was accompanied by a powerful earthquake. The tombs turned out to be full of various things, later called relics, which influenced the lives of ordinary people in such a way that they changed them beyond recognition. It turned out that all the myths, legends, fairy tales, novels are all true, because the relics were different objects that were mentioned in these stories. They endowed the owner with superhuman abilities, as a result of which rumors began to spread among people that the relics had changed their lives beyond recognition. People began a real hunt for relics, and the main character also decided to start searching for artifacts, although much later, unlike the others. And finally, the work was crowned with success and Zukan was able to take possession of one of the most powerful relics, namely the archaeological one, which gives its owner reliable knowledge about all the tombs and artifacts that are in them. For the main character, this was an amazing opportunity to start life from scratch, but his lateness in the general hunt played a cruel joke on him, because a new order had already been established in the world, where those who have more relics can use them. Juhong had no choice but to submit to these people, but his abilities in archaeology were recognized, and he was able to get a job as an employee at the large TKVM corporation. The work was quite hard, and the main character often had to get his hands dirty, engaging in smuggling, theft, and espionage, but his most frequent job was tomb robberies. Using his professional search abilities, Seo Juhyun easily retrieved relics hidden in the depths of forbidden tombs, and was also proud of the results he achieved as a tomb robber. A few years later, the director of KVON, for whom the main character worked, received the status of the strongest man in the world, and all this only thanks to the stolen relics that the thieves brought him. The more influential Kwon became, the more Juhyun was hated and despised for his corruption to the director, who was considered a scoundrel, although the hero did not have much choice, because this is one of the ways to survive in the new crazy world. However, the new mission was a trap prepared by director Kwon, who sent the protagonist and several of his subordinates to a deadly place, without caring whether his people would die there or not. A terrible monster, looking like a huge snake with a mane, attacks Juhan, who is trying in every possible way to fight off the evil creature, while shouting thousands of threats and insults in his face. Until the very last moment, when the monster's teeth sparkle in front of the protagonist's face, he continues to scream. But at some point the fight is interrupted by a mysterious voice from nowhere, which asks Juhyun to shut up. Juhyun, in bewilderment, asks who it is, to which the mysterious voice is surprised at the guy's ability to hear him, although for the hero his own life is more important, and for the salvation of which he asks and hints that the snake must be properly removed from him. The voice, mocking Juhyun, reproaches him for not understanding his situation, because you won't last long with stubs torn off your legs, so it doesn't see the point in delaying the guy's death. The voice hints that the hero has his last minutes left, and says that even with his abilities, the guy was unable to adapt to the new world and continued to suffer from backbreaking work, unable even with his resourcefulness to solve his problems. At such a decisive moment, with the last of his strength, Juhyun shouts out to the voice that it knows nothing about him, does not know what it's like to live a life like his. The hero, in front of the monster's mouth, remembers his boss and shouts that he will definitely finish him off no matter what. Suddenly, a bright flash of white light lights up in front of the hero and the monster, and a voice says that it will give Juhyun a chance to live his life differently and become truly the best at something, while a black bird similar to a raven appears from the light. The hero opens his eyes while talking about what happened to him, what the mysterious voice meant when talking about becoming the best, what kind of strange bird appeared before his eyes. At some point, he is distracted from his reasoning and notices that his legs, which he remembered were not there, suddenly appeared in place in a normal state. But then Juhyun looks up and, looking around, realizes that he is in a police station, and the people around him look at him like he's crazy. At this moment, a policeman calls him, who asks what he is thinking about, and also says that he does not have much time, and they need information about the hero's personal data. Next, the officer asks Juhyun a question about his name, But he does not hear him, because he himself is reflecting on the strange events that happened to him. The policeman cannot stand it, and begins to shout that it is advisable to sort out the problem as soon as possible, and his colleague quietly complains that he cannot get home in the new year 2025. Joo-hyun abruptly breaks away from his thoughts and begins to slowly penetrate the reality of what is happening. Looking around, he realizes that it is now January 1st, 2025, and a high school student is sitting next to him and looking angrily at the hero. Remembering past events, Joo-hyun realizes that the situation he is in was with him when this same schoolboy ran into him while drunk and the matter came to the police. But the most important thing is that the hero understands that he returned to the past 15 years ago. This insight makes the hero understand that the world in which he lives has not yet changed, the relics have not yet appeared, which means this is an amazing opportunity for a new life. Joo-hyun is confident that with his skills and memories, he can rob the tombs before anyone else. All this excites and inspires him so much that a smile appears on his face, and the tempting question of what will happen to him excites his imagination. After the relics appeared in the world, Joo-hyun was sure that nothing else could surprise him. But the day when the events of the failed theft, set up by Director Kwon, and the transfer into the past 15 years, took place, was quite surprising. All the hero's thoughts were filled only with what benefit and luck would open up for him, because all the relics would be open to him. However, the harsh reality and the woman screaming at him quickly interrupted the flow of thoughts. The woman screamed at Joo-hyun for hitting her precious high school senior son and demanded that he take responsibility for his actions, and either pay up front or go to jail. The hero was annoyed by the whole situation and he decided to deal with it quickly, while remembering that the essence of the problem was that the guy himself was running into a fight and would not get rid of it. The hero simply decided to teach him manners. Joo-hyun remembers that he had no choice but to ask for forgiveness and pray that the amount of the requested compensation be reduced. The hero realized that now he has absolutely no money and basic archaeological tools, and he also has no income. During his internal discussions about pressing problems, the woman became completely angry, because Joo-hyun did not pay any attention to her. She swung at him, wanting to hit him, but the hero managed to react and blocked her blow. Then Joo-hyun realized that his fighting skills remained with him since he retained all the experience he had gained over the past 15 years, and for him it was simply wonderful. The hero began to tell the woman that her son got into the fight himself, and also said that the situation that had developed now was absolutely stupid and her son simply looked like herself. At that moment, the high school student decided to stand up for his mother and flew at the hero with his fists, calling him trash and saying that he initially wanted to show generosity, but the situation changed. But it didn't cost Joo-hyun anything to grab the guy's hand in an instant and wrap it behind his back, while placing his face on the floor. The hero noticed that his body had become lighter, and assumed that this was due to the lack of effects from the artifacts. But the next second he looked up at the approaching and swearing policemen who were going to stop the fight. Joo-hyun decided to say directly that he would not be able to pay compensation, so if he was locked up, he would not mind. The woman was very surprised and said that he had gone crazy, because he chose prison instead of money. But she also angrily spat out that by this act he had made a big mistake, although the hero himself did not care about it. Already sitting in the cell, Joo-hyun was thinking that when the world changes and relics appear in it, complete chaos will begin. He also thought about his situation, because fighting skills alone are not enough, and it is necessary to find means to find his relic as soon as possible. But at one point some inscriptions appeared in front of Joo-hyun's face, which at first he took for vision problems and hallucinations. But this turned out not to be the case, and the inscription read a brief description of the young man. The hero realized that a relic in the form of a raven was involved in everything, to which the guy immediately began to make claims about what happened to him. Then suddenly various inscriptions appear in front of his face, similar to a game window with information about the hero's basic skills as a tomb raider. Realizing the real similarity to the game, Joo-hyun begins to get angry at the raven, who, in his opinion, controls him so easily. However, the hero notices a new task in the window, the goal of which is to unlock all 4 tomb raider skills. At this moment, a policeman approaches the camera, asking what kind of noise is going on, and the hero realizes that only he himself can see the skill window. The only skill Joo-hyun discovered turned out to be the same as before that he had from the artifact, namely examining an object in detail located within a meter radius. He realized that all the past skills granted by artifacts were now inside him, and they just needed to be discovered, and then there was no point in hunting for artifacts. However, the hero was alarmed by the fact that the relics do not help for nothing, which means the raven needs something from him. At that moment, a middle-aged man approached Juhyun's cell and waved to him friendly. He introduced the hero from the police station and said that the guy was a real hardened criminal, and reassured him that he would take care of the incident. The man turned out to be Detective Kim Jong-woo, who for the main character was like an older brother who took in the orphan and treated him like his own. Juhyun was happy to see him and decided to ask if there were any reports of paranormal activity or the like, but he only mentioned his wife, calling her a witch because he always finds his stash. After this, Jungwoo tells the hero to go home, and he leaves, leaving the hero alone with his thoughts. Jihong still thinks about the lucky chance to plunder as many tombs as possible, but is also puzzled by his lack of money, because the best relics appeared in Europe and America, and without funds it is impossible to get there. For such thoughts, he was overtaken by bandits familiar to the hero, who reproached the hero for idleness and failure to fulfill the duties of the youngest. But Juhyun is not afraid, but sees in this only a benefit and a source of income. The bandits immediately approached the hero with a complaint, because how could he not show respect to his henim? The most important of the gang, whose name is Park Kyungda, was formerly a street punk, who, together with his sister, opened a gallery and became an art dealer. Juhyun worked part-time for them in high school, because he really needed money, and even if the hero did not want to stay with them for long, he was forced to work until he was 25 years old. The hero was not useless at work, but did everything like everyone else, but he was never respected like the others, treated like a dog and threatened with a reduction in salary. One man from the gang got very angry because Juhyun was not paying attention to them and threatened to beat him up. However, the main character was the first to deal a crushing blow, greatly surprising his opponents. Afterwards, Juhyun said that he no longer worked for them and asked him to convey this to their boss. The bandits were shocked and called the hero stupid, although something else was more important to him, because he needed money, so he told the bandits to pay his salary and severance pay right now. The men did not take his statement seriously, they laughed, but flew at the hero with their fists. Thanks to his reaction, Juhyun easily blocked all the enemy's blows and took down the gang leader in the shortest possible time. The bandits were shocked, because just yesterday the guy had not died fighting, but now suddenly he had such abilities. The young master, angry, ordered the men to attack all at once, but they lost again, due to the surprise and accuracy of the hero's blows. To Juhyun, the whole situation seemed funny and he continued to tease the bandits, saying that he felt sorry for them, because soon the world would become even worse. The hero is glad that his body remains as fast and agile, but is also not strong enough, and therefore the fight must be stopped faster. The gang leader reproaches the hero for being ungrateful and not appreciating their help, and then decides to kill him altogether. The young master tells the chief to be careful, because the knife is valuable, and he already has a buyer. Juhyun assumes that the knife is a relic, but does not understand how it fell into the hands of the bandits. On the other hand, this is not surprising, because some relics like to be found in tombs, while others are hidden among people. The leader decides to attack the hero and, unsurprisingly, nothing works out for him. Juhyun grabs a knife from the leader's outstretched sword and jumps to the side, amid threatening screams from the rest of the gang. Having examined the relic, the hero quickly understands how to use it, and is already preparing to go on the attack. It turned out that a knife allows a person to look at another from the inside, which is very beneficial in battle. The relic also gives physical strength, which Juhyun quickly uses and, with inhuman speed, slips between the bandits, inflicting small puncture wounds on them. The men are completely confused, but the hero simply grins, saying that he just hurt them, but at the same time, if the matter does not end quickly, they will suffer more. Juhyun demands money from the robbers and threatens them with death if they disobey. The bandits, with walls and blood, quickly agree, which the hero is pleased with. After this, the gang leader called his sister and told about the situation, which she was not very happy about, which she directly told her brother about. He replied that he himself did not understand how this happened, because before that he was convinced that Juhan did not even know the basics of combat, and now even his gaze had become ominous. The leader said that Juhyun took all the money from them, as well as samples of products for the deal, and the sister realized that he also had the golden Buddha statue. The man immediately justifies himself by saying that the money provided to the hero was not enough, so he took the knife with the Buddha from them, especially after he realized that it was quite expensive. Kenza's sister yelled at her brother and demanded that the statue be returned immediately. Juhyun went with the gold figurine to the pawn shop, but there they told him that it was worth nothing at all, and suggested that he just keep it for himself, because no one would buy it. The hero was very surprised, because then why did his friends worry so much about her? Juhyun himself thought that the thing was valuable, and right during these thoughts, a window appeared in front of him with an announcement about the opening of a new skill. It was written there that there was something inside the figurine, and then the hero realized that it was not just that they were not protecting it that way. Using a knife, Juhyun quickly opened it, and a bottle of liquid drugs fell out. The hero knew that they were quite expensive and also assumed that they were in other exhibits in the gallery. Juhyun quickly made a decision and called Jongwoo with a question about the amount of the reward for informing about smuggling. That same evening, the head of the gallery was deciding on the delivery of the figurine to the buyer, listening to the buyer's grievances about the delay. She was very angry, because the customer assumed that the head of the gallery would take all the money for himself, although this was not the case. At the same moment, the brother of the head was brought into the building with a broken face and in handcuffs, and he directly said that they were in complete ass. The sister was surprised, but Officer Chan simply said that their smuggling had been discovered, and there was no point in making excuses, although the head was outraged. The officer simply provided evidence in the form of a jar of drugs and hinted that they would not be able to escape. The head was very angry that they had been discovered, but she remembered that all warehouses had passwords and was sure that nothing would be found. So she told the man that if they didn't have more physical evidence, then she wouldn't even listen. At that very moment, the police radio transmitted that a huge amount of drugs had been found in the warehouses. The woman was indignant, because she did not understand how they could open the premises if each of them had its own password. The officer laughed and said that they had special methods and a person from the inside helped them. At the same time, Juhyun helped the police by opening all the doors and explaining everything with his strong memory. Working for bandits, the guy was also surprised at the number of codes, but it was inconvenient to enter them from a sheet each time, so he simply memorized them. Of course, the hero did not expect that this knowledge would ever be useful to him, but now everything was going as well as possible. Juhyun couldn't be happier that he would soon receive a reward and be able to search for the relics in peace. The police thanked Juhyun, to which he only said that it was not difficult for him, but he wanted to ask them for a favor. When the head of the gallery had already been fired from the building, Juhan, through his friend, asked him to pass the phone to the woman. The hero said that he should have paid wages better and changed passwords at least once every 6 months, and now he wishes her a pleasant stay in prison. The woman screamed that she would kill Juhyun. She also said that he was ungrateful, because she had done so much for him, but it was too late. When the hero was returning home, Officer Jongwoo wrote to him and thanked him for his help, and also advised him not to spend all the money at once. Juhyun swore to himself that he would find the relics before Chief Kwon Tae-yun. He just had to wait. However, when the hero was already approaching the area of his house, he saw nothing there except a huge earthen mound, which turned out to be a tomb, and the hero thought that it was not there by chance. People did not understand what was happening, shouted at each other, expressed their dissatisfaction with the security services. Juhyun was not surprised by this, because people could be understood, but at the same time, this will happen more and more often until the world finally changes. As the hero remembers, he was then informed by telephone about what had happened to his house, because that day he was working in the gallery's warehouse. But upon returning home, he did not find anything unusual and wrote it off as a joke by the security services. This could only mean that the tomb was definitely cleared in just a few hours. Juhan assumed that since they acted so quickly, the thief was nearby, but this time he definitely wouldn't get to the relics. Not far away in the crowd, a man in uniform was shouting at people with a machine gun while Juhyun's neighbor Kim tried to calm him down. The main character quickly reacted and knocked out the warrior with one precise blow. He shouted at the soldier for waving a firearm in a crowd of civilians. Juhyun greeted his neighbor and noted that he had not changed at all, to which Kim was a little surprised, because a few days ago they had met in the same store. The warrior had already recovered from the blow and asked for forgiveness for his strange behavior, to which the hero said that there was no problem, It was just where the soldiers came from, because they mobilized too quickly. Juhyun asked the soldier about his knowledge about the tomb and whether he had visited it at all, to which he replied that he had no right. The hero immediately guessed that they were trying to get in, so all that remained was to determine who they were working for. Juhyun quickly thought through everything and began to extort information from the soldier about the reason for their being here, because if he did not do this, the hero would report him to his superiors and he would be in big trouble. The soldier, under pressure, surrendered and said that their task was to destroy the object by first removing a certain thing from inside, while he said that no one or anything would be harmed. Juhyun realized that these people had no idea what they were up against, and the soldier kept convincing them that this did not pose any danger. Thanking the soldier for his honesty, the hero thought about the words he had spoken, because the involvement of scientists in the case led him to some conclusions. At the same moment, his neighbor approached Juhyun and asked about the details, to which he replied that he could not really find out anything. Having said this, the hero began to leave under the surprised gaze of Kim, who was thinking about the strange behavior of his neighbor. At the same time, Linda Walker, who is a special agent, discussed on the phone the Korean government's knowledge of the tomb situation. They assured her that the government knew nothing, but she was unsure, because there were many military men around. The voice on the phone claimed that everything was under control and the military was acting on their orders, and was also interested in information about the tombs. The girl said that everything was in perfect order and the dynamite had been successfully planted, so it would soon be possible to enter the facility. The man on the phone was very pleased and reminded that one should act exactly according to the protocol, because each relic must be delivered safe and sound. Then Abe Kiyoshi, a representative of the Japanese archaeological community, approached the agent and hinted that not only Americans would reap the benefits of the New World. He himself must have been surprised that the agents arrived at the place before them, and asked whether Agent Linda had made it well. He was continually amazed by the speed of the American rats, but Linda replied that, unlike archaeologists, they make relics into the public domain, and therefore their main task is cooperation. The man only asked if she herself believed in what she was saying, because her words were a real circus, and she herself was either blind or trying to make a fool out of him, because the American government would never allow Japanese scientists to access the relics. The entire conversation was overheard by Juhyun, who immediately guessed that the man and woman were in charge and were representatives of two states. Despite the fact that tombs began to appear all over the world, initially their essence was not clear. Therefore, when it all started, only the most advanced countries, which included the USA and Japan, actually competed for relics. Governments organized special excavation teams and recovered artifacts around the world. Juhyun thought that this time they would not succeed, because the relic would have to belong to him. The hero realized that while the representatives were quarreling, he could manage to do everything, and the only thing he was worried about was the risk of activating explosives while he was inside. The hero went towards the tomb and noticed glyphs under his feet, which indicated the relic's desire to be found, as if it itself was seeking attention as a living person. Juhyun thought about the fact that those who can read glyphs consider themselves the main characters, because this guarantees that the adventure will be safe, with knowledge of all the secrets and traps. Most people don't have this skill, but Juhyun isn't one of them, so he quickly figures out where the entrance is. But then a window flashes before his eyes with information about a new skill, the essence of which is the ability to learn and use all languages, as well as the voice of relics and the attached hidden skills. Juhyun was pleased with the new skill and began to wave his hand to remove the shining window. When the entrance was found, the hero did not gather his courage for long, because he was glad to once again take up his favorite job as a tomb robber. When the entrance to the tomb was unsealed, a window appeared before the hero's eyes, warning of the approach of an unknown creature, and then a powerful beam of light burst out from under the ground, which illuminated everything around, and the service workers could not help but see it. While the archaeologists did not understand where the light came from, Linda was already informed that someone had climbed into the tomb. The archaeologist immediately rushed to the nearest soldier and ordered him to evacuate the civilians, because there was a risk of threat to them. After that, the man and woman walked to the epicenter of the world, without even taking anyone with them to help. Having already arrived at the place, they couldn't really see anything, because the light was so bright that it was disturbing, so Linda threw a stone into the hole, at the bottom of which there was water. Kiyoshi jumped down from the edge of the pit without hesitation, not paying attention to Agent Linda's attempt to stop him. Juhyun heard sounds from the direction he was coming from and realized that there was a tail behind him, and he needed to get rid of it as soon as possible. With the help of glyphs, the hero directed the first test of the tomb on people, and he himself went on. When Kiyoshi climbed out of the water, Linda came down to him on a rope and said that it was about him that she wanted to warn. Then they heard strange sounds and realized that something was approaching them and approaching quickly. It turned out that the test of the tomb was a strong stream of water flowing through the tunnels, into which the heroes ended up. While Linda and Kiyoshi were being rinsed, Juhyun reached the point he needed in the tomb, where there was a small lake of water in front of him. The hero realized that he had taken the knife with him for a reason and threw it into the water. And then a huge white snake appeared from under the water and began to tell Juhan that his blade was not lost. The snake said that the hero could take it if he found his own, and he opened his mouth, in which there were 2 blades, one made of silver and the other made of gold. But Juhan was not stupid. He realized that he was in the tomb of 2 axes, and the story about them was as old as the world. The hero knew her and therefore was sure that he could not be fooled, and he answered the snake that the blade was not his. The snake was very surprised by the answer, but still showed another blade, the one that really belonged to the guy. In the fable, only when the man saw his axe did he cry out about it, and as a reward for his honesty gave him all the axes. Juhyun knew about the legend and therefore decided to tell the snake that he was not sure if the blade asked him to look at it, to which the snake agreed. The hero approached and took his knife from the snake's mouth, but not in order to look at it, but in order to quickly strike the snake's neck with it. The snake was surprised, because the guy was so close to receiving the reward. Juhyun explained this by saying that according to the first rule of the thief, never trust relics, because they are pure evil. The hero was not sure that there were guarantees that he would not be killed or a curse would be sent to him, and the snake was increasingly surprised by the man's knowledge of the relics. As it turned out, after that the person who took the relic the last time turned into a serial killer, the number of victims of which simply cannot be counted. The hero said that he knew much more about the relics, and was also upset that the test of honesty eventually turned into a scam. Immediately after this, Juhyun went on the attack again, and the snake realized what the guy wanted to do, got angry and began to wriggle his whole body. There was one catch in the world of relics, because it is not enough just to pass the test and receive the relic, you also need to establish a connection with it, similar to kinship. And the connection usually always develops without problems, but not always, because one of the characteristic features of the relics is hatred of the entire human race, so they hit them with curses that quickly or not very quickly kill them. There are, of course, artifacts that allow one to recover from curses, and their owners are incredibly lucky, and this was precisely the reason why Juhyun could not leave Kwon for so long. But if contact cannot be established with the relic, then the only way out is to completely subjugate it to yourself. The fight continued, and the snake had already begun to beg for an end to his suffering. Juhyun just laughed and assured that he wouldn't just let him go, but would make him suffer and suppress his will. Controlling relics is not the same as possessing an ordinary object, because one wrong move and they will consume you. There are 3 ways to interact with artifacts, and the first of them is friendship, namely a healthy relationship between a person and a relic. The second type is dominance, which ends in strict submission to the artifact. The third type is compatibility, which arises through common ideas and interests, for example, the interaction of a musician and an instrument. Most, of course, try to make friends with the artifact, because this is the surest way on the way to the building, which means using the power to its full potential. As is already known, relics that do not have a relationship with the owner and are not in power gradually drive the owner crazy as payment for gifts. Therefore, Juhyun is not going to waste time on friendship that could kill him, but will force him to obey his will. The hero threatened the snake that he could easily kill him, because finding a replacement was not a problem for him. The snake was perplexed, because, in his opinion, people should want to read the relics. After a while, the reptile could not stand the torture, and, illuminating everything around with a bright light, it turned into a small golden axe. During the hero period, a window appeared again, which notified the acquisition of a new skill, namely initial archaeology. Juhyun was happy about the new skill, and he just had to discover one more, which the hero was very interested in. The hero also gained new titles and talents, known as friendship and dominance. This upset Juhyun a little, because the dominance increased and the persuasion decreased, although this actually did not affect anything. At the same time, Linda and Kiyoshi ran into the cave, which surprised the hero, because he expected that the test would delay them longer. Kiyoshi took a vase out of his pocket and threw it into the lake under Linda's surprised look. Juhyun just laughed, but decided to still keep an eye on the couple from behind cover, because he suggested that he would meet them more than once. He even thought about killing them outright and ending everything right here. However, a window appeared again in which the strength of the dagger was reported, and the hero realized that this was a hint about saving people's lives. Kiyoshi at that moment was perplexed why nothing was happening, because the prophecy said to throw the vessel into the lake. Linda guessed that the relic of predictions was in his organization, to which the man only said that there was no difference. He explained to the girl that someone had insolently taken their artifact from them. Linda said she saw footprints near the windows and agreed about the tomb being robbed. At this time, Juhyun was just having fun, scaring them with different sounds, to which they reacted like children. As a result, the hero decided to get out of the tomb and ordered the snake to seal it. Then the entire cave shook and began to collapse, and therefore Linda and Kiyoshi began to panic and tried to find a way out. Juhyun got out of the caves through the sewer and only reproached the agents for not taking care of escape routes. When he returned to the houses, the tomb was no longer there, although people could not come to their senses for a long time, but still began to go home. Juhyun turned to his neighbor, who was surprised to tell him that the embankment had simply disappeared. The hero was indifferent to this, because the only plus was that she was not there, and he could go home and eat in peace, although his neighbor did not understand such indifference on the part of his acquaintance. At the same time, Kiyoshi was arguing with the people responsible for the predictions, because they did not inform him about the changes. He said that now he wants to know about all the changes, otherwise there is no sense in their work. He was told that the prophecy appeared only a few hours ago, and due to problems with translating the runes, they could not understand what it said. Kiyoshi only became angrier, because then the child responsible for the prophecies is completely useless. The man on the phone repented and promised that something like this would not happen again, so he simply offered to catch up. The person who took the relic is not the most ordinary and perhaps due to difficulties in translation, but the prophecy says that he will devour the world. At this time, Juhyun, using his linguistic knowledge, studied the internet in order to find at least some information about Kwon. His neighbor was very surprised at the hero's abilities, because for him, what Juhyun read was just a set of incomprehensible lines. Then Juhyun decided to ask his neighbor about Kwon's company, and what he knew about him, but he just shrugged his shoulders, because he had never heard of him. The hero said that he needed information about the director of the company, but it was not available on the internet. Then Puck assumed that this was related to the guy's investigations, but still couldn't help. After a while, the hero was still able to figure out how to find new information. The bandits, whose underground trade had been betrayed by Juhyun, were now in the main building of the organization, but the police had cleared everything there and the men could not find anything. They discussed that they couldn't cope without the head of Nuzna, because they didn't understand anything about business. The young master blamed Juhyun for everything and swore that he would kick his ass the next time they met. The rest agreed with him, and someone simply suggested that they should put pressure on the guy in an organized manner and take revenge for everything. But then the gentleman's phone rang, and Juhyun's name appeared on the screen, which surprised the bandits. The leader responded in a surprised tone, to which Juhyun reproached him for being slow, because he thought for a long time before picking up the phone. The young master instantly became angry and began shouting at the hero for betraying their organization. Juhyun just told him to shut up and told him that he had a proposal for them. He knew that things were simply terrible for the group, but the bandits just started screaming again, because everything happened because of him. Then the hero said that their situation can be corrected, and he himself wants to hire men so that he can have his own people in Midas. Midas is the world's largest underground auction and home to some of the world's greatest treasures and valuables. Kwon visited it from time to time in order to obtain the highest quality relics, and that is why Juhyun needs people there. The bandits must deal with the goods and people in the shortest possible time. Specifically, they should look for a person known as Jki. This nickname was one of Kwon's pseudonyms to divert attention. Juhyun said that he needed any information about this man, and he also threatened that he would kill the men if they dared to deceive him. The young master began to shout at the hero, because Midas is in Vegas and how can they get there? To which Juhyun only said that it's not his problem. The guy said that they could refuse, but they definitely wouldn't do it once they found out the amount he would pay them for the work. The bandit just continued to yell, not paying any attention to Juhyun's words, and also forced him to say his location in order to take what was rightfully theirs. The hero realized that they would not make contact just like that, and began to threaten them with violence if they disobeyed. The bandits got scared and began to persuade the hero to wait and agreed to work, assuring that they would do everything in the best possible way. After the conversation, Juhyun decided for himself that while the bandits were getting information, he would take care of another tomb. In the evening, the news showed that an unknown woman tried to burn herself in the very center of the city. The hero saw this news and began to suspect the imminent appearance of a new tomb, because such situations happen for a reason. Then an unknown man suddenly started shouting at him, because Juhyun was blocking his passage into the store. This man turned out to be the same archaeologist whom the hero sought in the tomb. Juhyun thought that he was here for a reason, and this meant the imminent appearance of a new tomb. The hero also remembered that the Japanese unit is working with a seer, so they know exactly where the new release will occur. At the same moment, Juhyun responded to the man's curses in pure Japanese, which greatly discouraged him, because he did not think that the guy was Japanese. Kiyoshi quickly changed his tone to a friendly one and apologized, explaining his behavior on a difficult day, while the hero only thanked his new linguistic abilities. Zan decided to laugh again, saying that he actually didn't understand anything, but he liked the man's facial expressions. Kiyoshi only began to scream louder and say that such jokes were simply terrible. The hero already in the store took himself a beer and answered the man that he was to blame, but the archaeologist only refuted this, because the guy himself did not give way to him. When Juhyun stood at the cash register, the man continued to shout and tried to intimidate the hero with his status in society. But Juhyun was interested in something else, namely the fact that Kiyoshi did not try to hide the energy of his relic, considering him a fool. When they left the store, the guy started shaking his beer so that the man couldn't see. And at that moment, when Kiyoshi wanted to turn the guy towards him, Juhyun opened the jar, and all its contents splashed onto the man in a powerful stream. The hero began to artificially apologize, talking about the randomness of what was happening and the possibility that he had already bought the jar in this condition, although the archaeologist did not even want to hear him, and continued to swear. During all this commotion, Juhyun reached into the man's pocket and felt an object resembling a bracelet, but he was not going to steal it now, because it could be too suspicious. Kiyoshi said that the guy would have to pay for cleaning his clothes, but he said that he couldn't, because he spent the last money on beer, and advised the man to just buy new clothes. Immediately, Juhyun picked up the man's documents from the ground, which he abruptly snatched from the guy's hands. He did not want his archaeological documents to be seen and generally decided that he needed to calm down. At that very second, an eerie sound was heard, and the earth began to shake as if during an earthquake. Ordinary people did not understand what was happening and were simply trying to save their lives and hide from the attack. Juhyun quickly realized that a new tomb had appeared, and Kiyoshi only made sure of the veracity of the seer's words and decided to take advantage of the resulting chaos. At that moment, he received a call from the organization. The man said that everything was going according to plan, but then he was cut off, because that was not all. According to their information, the person who cleared the tomb last time will stand in the way again. The fortune-teller also said another strange thing, namely that Kiyoshi should stay away from alcoholic beverages. The man immediately remembered the guy who spilled beer on him and guessed that he was the man from the prophecy. Kiyoshi noticed that the guy had already escaped, but decided to stop him at all costs, also demanding from the workers every detail from the last prophecy. At this time, Juhyun walked through the broken streets, and thought that the new relic would fray his nerves and it would not be easy with it. Then from behind him came the cry of an archaeologist, who pointed a pistol at the hero and threatened to shoot him if he moved. The hero was surprised by the man who suddenly appeared, but he only ordered to show what was in the backpack. Suddenly, everything began to shake again, and a window appeared in front of the hero's eyes, warning of an approaching unknown aura. At the same moment, luminous cracks began to appear under the hero's feet, and then a powerful stream of light appeared, marking the appearance of a new tomb. Juhyun was trying to recover from the sudden event while people around him were running around in bewilderment and trying to help each other. The hero realized that all these people were in danger, because the relic clearly thirsted for blood. Looking around, the guy noticed many swords and remembered the place where he ended up, namely the Muramasa tomb, which is the abode of the deadly katana. Muramasa was a famous swordsman, blacksmith, and founder of a weapons school in ancient Japan, and his work has become renowned for its incredible characteristics and mystical stories. One of them talked about the curse of Shogun Toku, who was the head of Ieyasu, whose policy the master did not agree with, and therefore put curses on all the blades of this family. It was known that a series of deaths and accidents were associated with Muramasa's swords, so many of the master's works were destroyed. This was all the information Juhien knew, not counting the one that consisted of the relic's incredible hatred of all humanity. Then a window appeared before the hero's eyes, which said that the relic drew attention to the guy and caused him damage that needed to be cured immediately. Juhien noticed the wound and decided that the tomb needed to be cleaned out as quickly as possible. But then Kiyoshi appeared behind the hero again, demanding that the guy open his backpack. They were surrounded by people, so the hero said that he would not do this, because he was not obliged to do this, and the whole situation looked like a robbery. The man laughed, calling the guy an idiot, because the gun was pointed at him. But he didn't listen. Juhien simply told him to shoot, although he would not have advised it, and Kiyoshi was very surprised by such an unexpected statement. Then he sharply redirected the gun to the hero's leg, continuing to shout at the guy, saying that he did not understand what he had gotten himself into. He pulled the trigger, but there was no shot, and the man's hand caught fire, and he dropped his gun. Juhien told the archaeologist that modern weapons do not work in the tombs, otherwise everything would be too easy. Kiyoshi asked the guy how he knew all this and was convinced that last time it was he who took their relic. The hero only confirmed this, saying that he could forget about the axes. He immediately grabbed the man by the collar and, apologizing for having to get rid of him, threw him over himself, throwing him on the floor. Suddenly, strange green spirits began to crawl out of the ground and grab Kiyoshi, trying to drag him down. Juhien simply said goodbye, saying that maybe they would see each other again. Trying to get out, the man told people around that everything was under control, which they doubted, and asked if anyone knew Japanese. One young man came out of the crowd, whom the man immediately asked to help, but he was suddenly stopped. Some were unsure that it was worth saving him, because he had a gun. Others were unsure of the danger and wanted to help. Kiyoshi quickly took out his documents and began to assure that he was an official and would help all the people get out of the tomb. At this time, Kiyoshi was examining the thing that he had stolen from the archaeologist during the fight. He was very happy that humanity still knew little about the tombs, because this ignorance played into his hands greatly. It turned out that he had stolen a bracelet and a pie from a Korean fairy tale about a brother and sister who became the sun and the moon. In it, a tiger kills the children's mother for rice cakes and tries to kill the children, but a rope suddenly descends from the sky saves them from death. Juhien didn't think the relic was powerful, but decided to keep it just in case. Here a window appeared in front of the hero again, which notified him of receiving a new skill, and this meant the final unlocking of all 4 skills. Suddenly, a new window appeared, telling him that the mission had been completed and that he was instructed to leave the tomb to receive his reward. Juhien again compared his current situation to a game, but he didn't get too angry, because so far everything is only playing into his hands. And then, not far from him, the hero heard strange screams that came from a crevice in the ground. Downstairs, an unknown woman was threatening people with a knife, and Juhien thought it was a new trap. People around were very frightened by the current situation and asked the girl to calm down, but she did not hear them and continued to hiss furiously. Juhien realized that the girl was possessed, and that if she touched someone, he would become the same. The more people fall under the influence of the relic, the more difficult it is for others to survive, and eventually everyone dies. Also, the length of the bridge over the abyss depends on the number of deaths, and all this reminded the hero of a sacrificial altar. Juhien shouted to the people below about what happened to them, and assumed that it was a Japanese man with a gun who did it. People confirmed this, and told how the man began to sing something and the traps disappeared. But in the end he abandoned people, saying that in order to keep the secret, people must die. Amid surprised cries, Zukan descended into the crevice, cutting through the sharp blades with a dagger along the way. Then the possessed girl noticed him, and ran towards the hero at full speed. Juhien decided to use the man's relic and ordered the bracelet to stop the girl. The bracelet instantly turned into a rope, and immobilized the body of the possessed woman in an instant. The hero took the cursed relic and began to hear it ordering him to kill everyone around him. Again, a window with the characteristics of the relic appeared in front of the guy, and he realized that the thing was mediocre, but with incredible conceit. So he simply threw the knife aside and went in search of the main relic. The possessed girl had already come to her senses and asked to remove the rope from her and let her go, although the relic was clearly pleased with her situation. Juhyun simply took the artifact and told the people to follow him and trust that he would help them. At this time, Kiyoshi had already reached the main room of Muramesa's blades. He decided to quickly find the right sword and deal with the annoying guy. However, he quickly failed, and all the swords around him were fakes. Then people who had been left to die by the archaeologist entered the room and began accusing him of murder. Kiyoshi was very surprised, but realized that the guy was to blame for everything, and people had already knocked the man to the ground and beat him in retaliation. At that moment, Juhyun approached them and began to mock the man, because he could not find the required relic, although he had arrived much earlier. The hero ordered the golden axe to find the relic, and it quickly completed the task. He took out a piece of the sword from the ground, but decided that its true form would appear when activated. The relic began to set conditions, because its shell was too weak and the guy had to kill 10 people in order to completely take possession of it. Kiyoshi could not believe what was happening and did not understand who the hero was talking to. The people around were scared, because they began to think that one of them would die. Juhyun said that relics often ask for this, and asked if this was the final decision of the artifact, to which he agreed. Then the hero said that he saw no point in completing the task if he could simply subjugate the relic. Juhyun set a condition for the sword that if you do not obey, he will smash her into small pieces. The relic resisted, because she did not understand how an ordinary person could do something like that to her. After a while, the relic surrendered and the tomb became cleared. After that, Juhyun held a rope up and told people to climb it to get out. People were very happy and immediately went to the exit, and the hero caught Kiyoshi in the crowd and stopped him from escaping. He assumed that the man was going to get rid of the witnesses as soon as he got out, although the archaeologist denied this. Kiyoshi promised a generous reward and work in the company, as well as access to the relic to the seer, for saving his life. However, Juhyun was not sure, because the reliquia can only belong to one person, although the man assured that the fortune-teller company would be only too happy to help. The hero agreed, but on the condition that the man climbed last. Kiyoshi could not get enough of his salvation and successful setup. He began to suck up to Juhyun, saying that he was a smart guy and people like him were welcome on the team. The guy wanted to know more about the company, because he couldn't just trust them. Overjoyed, the man, not noticing what he was saying, told the name of the company, namely TKVM. At that very moment, Juhyun threw the archaeologist off the rope and back into the crevice. Kiyoshi fell, injuring his legs, and only saw the guy climb to the very top, leaving him alone. The tomb had already begun to collapse and the stones were falling down, and the man kept shouting about the injustice of this world. After all the events, Juhyun went to the public toilet to check his injuries, but then he heard the screams of the relics from his backpack. Juhyun realized that Muramesa started all this swearing, but he didn't care, because under no circumstances did he want to obey the man. Then the guy ran out of patience, and simply threw the relic into the toilet amid her terrible screams. Returning to his injury, the hero concluded that these were all the consequences of subordinating to Muramesu. Usually, in order to take possession of a relic, it is necessary to complete its task, but ignoring it and subjugating it with its power causes harm to the body. And the stronger the relic, the more harm it causes to the owner. The hero decided that he had no other choice, because if he did not subjugate the relics, they would simply betray him. Here a window appeared in front of Juhyun again, with a notification that he had received a reward for obtaining the relic. Among the reward options were ways to subjugate relics, which the hero was very surprised by, because he did not expect this. Juhyun wasn't going to stop just because of his arm problem, so he chose the path of submission. After activating the skill, the hero did not notice any changes and began to complain about the raven, because he himself did not follow his rules. But then in his pocket he discovered a relic in the form of a pill. The hero had nothing to lose, because if he died, it would not be his fault, so he ate the pill. After that, he took Muramesa out of the toilet, mockingly commenting on the incredible stench of the relic and regretting that he had put it there. Then the tablet suddenly began to act, and the wound on his hand gradually disappeared, while the hero realized that the relic was healing. Juhyun was a little upset by this outcome, because such a waste of such a relic is short-sighted. However, a window appeared in front of his face, which spoke of gaining a new skill, namely tolerance, which the hero had never heard of before. Juhyun guessed that this was that unique ability created especially for him. At this time, the news was all about the recent earthquake, in the center of which an unidentified object arose. About 50 people were trapped in the facility, and eyewitnesses claimed that there were a variety of traps inside. Some guy who was a victim said that there was someone from a Japanese organization in the facility whose goal was to kill people. The government has already sent Japan a request for an explanation, and the Chinese and Russian governments are demanding a response from Japan and, if anything, to answer for their actions. At the central office of a Japanese research company, the heads of the team reprimanded the head of the team. They were very angry, because information about the tombs is now on every screen in the world, and the company also brought huge problems to the country. A subordinate of the Japanese team caused a colossal scandal and died somewhere in a tomb, although, in their opinion, such a death was happiness for him. Chief Mori justified himself by saying that unforeseen circumstances arose in the person of the Korean from the prophecy. The heads were indignant, because they were assured that there would be no problems due to the presence of a seer, and the boss explained this by a huge number of side factors that did not depend on them. However, now everything has changed. They can use the prophetic relic to find out the location of a person, although the heads doubted this. It turned out that due to the location of their subordinate near the target, albeit with errors, they could establish his location. Scientists also use other relics to communicate with the seer without being affected by her, and in general they put a lot of effort into developments. Hearing this, the heads took pity and gave the team a second chance, which Chief Mori was immensely happy about and promised to eliminate the Korean. After a while, Juhyun was already in his apartment thinking about his newly acquired immunity, because if it protected him from the effects of the relics, it would be incredible luck. All owners of relics suffer from the effects, and in the past world the thieves went so far that healing relics became the most valuable treasure. Juhyun thought that this rare ability available only to him appeared only because of that raven. But the hero doubted, because he did not understand what the bird was up to and what benefit it could have in all this. Juhyun tried to talk to the raven, but he did not react at all. Then the young gentleman called him, and the hero began to ask him how the work was going. The man told him that they had checked the entire list of auction visits, and would find 3 people with a similar name. Then Juhyun decided that he himself would have to go to Vegas and check everything, which surprised the bandit. But suddenly a window appeared in front of his face with a warning that a relic had been used on the hero, and now his future was predicted. Juhyun told the bandit that he would stay longer because there was a place he needed to visit. There is a legend about the writing of Prince Shotoku, which contains predictions about the fate of Japan, and although during Shotoku's lifetime he was the prince regent, there has been no exact confirmation of the existence of this manuscript. It was one of the first relics introduced into human society, and instead of building a tomb for itself, it chose its owner. A girl named Sasaki Yuka was the one chosen by the prophetic relic. After that, the manuscript followed the girl wherever she went. Even after being burned and torn into pieces, the book still appeared in front of Sasaki, which greatly frightened the girl. Soon the Japanese government learned of the existence of the relics, and they recruited the girl into the ranks of the research team. After this, the Sasaki family never had financial problems again, because with the help of the gift of prediction, Japan could find a huge number of expensive relics. It seemed like there couldn't be any problems, but because the girl had left school to devote herself to work full-time, she didn't know the meaning of many difficult kanji, and couldn't fully provide the information. As a result, the owner of another relic surpassed the girl, which was the reason for her quick death. Initially, Juhyun did not want to touch the owner of the relic items, but the intrusiveness of the organization, their attempt to track him and the connection with Director Kwan changed the hero's plans. At the same time, Sasaki was watching her favorite program with the company, but she was again called to work and translate complex hieroglyphs. But if the girl did not understand them, she could accurately redraw them on a piece of paper, and the workers themselves would figure out what it meant. Suddenly she jumped away from the book and screamed that it said about her imminent death, and as legibly as possible. Sasaki was sure that this had something to do with the Korean from the predictions, because Kiyoshi also died due to his fault. The service workers began to reassure her, saying that this was only a first impression and that she had predictions in her hands that could help them. Then the girl looked at the recording again and gained confidence that she would not allow the Korean to win. At this time, Jaehyun's flight arrived at the Japanese airport. There, company employees began spying on him in order to track his location and intentions, because a prophetic relic cannot always accurately help in this matter. After a while, Juhyun was sitting in a room in a restaurant and eating sushi from the best master of his craft. But he also did not understand how long the service would delay the attack, because he was constantly threatening her life, which should have attracted the attention of the relic. The hero even tried to move slowly, because the relic could have problems determining his exact location. At the same time, employees of the organization were already hiding behind the wall of the room, preparing to capture the target. Sasaki was also there, whose task was to take the order to Juhyun. She was puzzled, because according to the prediction, he would have to kill her, so why should she go to certain death? It turned out that all she needed to do was just look into the guy's eyes, and then the relic would be able to accurately calculate the location of the object. She was warned that if the situation got worse, the service workers would pull her out of the epicenter. When the girl entered the room and the guy looked into her eyes, she was immediately speechless from his beauty. The reason for killing such a beautiful man became incomprehensible to her, because it was such a loss. Juhyun politely thanked her for the order, while Sasaki examined the owner of the relics. The hero was surprised and checked his sword, because he did not expect that the girl would come to him on her own. The camera service workers immediately noticed the guy's movement, and considered that the girl was in danger. The same workers who were behind the door did not understand what was happening, because according to the plan, she was supposed to leave as soon as she looked into his eyes. Then Sasaki stood up and abruptly closed the door, and then turned to the hero and asked him about the opportunity to become his fan. Juhyun did not answer, because he howled in shock at what was happening, and the girl considered this to be a misunderstanding of the question on her part. The workers were wondering what was going on, and why Sasaki closed the door. But then someone noticed the guy's conversation and thought that the girl was simply trying to find out more information about the object. Juhyun pretended that he did not understand the girl, to which she urgently began to write her wish in the translator. The hero relatively understood what she meant, but could not believe that she could behave so carelessly in the current situation. But since this was a great opportunity for him, he agreed, which made Sasaki very happy. The workers behind the door tried to eavesdrop on the conversation, but suddenly the door to the room was broken down. From there, Juhyun, accompanied by Sasaki, the men were already tied with a rope by the relic. Under their bewildered cries, the couple simply left the building, and the hero invited the girl to go on a date. When the guys were in the room, Juhyun agreed to the girl's proposal for a date, and wrote to her about it in Japanese in a translator. Then the hero told her that the Japanese army had also come with her, to which the girl agreed. After that, he suggested that the workers often force her to do a bunch of tedious things every day, which makes her very tired. As soon as she confirmed his words, Juhyun invited her to run away with him, but asked her not to lag behind. As they left the restaurant, Sasaki couldn't believe that there was a man right in front of her who wanted to kill her. After a while, the guys reached an empty alley, where they stopped, but the girl was still sure that she was not in danger, because she owned the relic. Only here did Sasaki remember that she had left the prophetic relic at home. At the same moment, Juhyun put a sword to her throat and demanded that she give him her mobile phone. Sasaki obeyed, after which her phone was smashed to pieces on the asphalt. She didn't understand what was happening, and Juhyun explained his action by the organization's current inability to track them. The hero laughed at the girl, because she really thought that the guy didn't know who she really was. As a result, Juhyun brought the girl to a cafe, where they were placed in a separate room and brought drinks. After the waiter left, the hero tied Sasaki's hands with rope while she was greatly indignant at the lady's deception. The hero denied this, saying that they are now having a great time in a cafe for couples, and what is it like, if not a date? The girl was afraid and did not understand what they were going to do with her, and she also assumed that Juhyun wanted to kill her, as the prophetic relic predicted. The hero replied that he really wanted to do this from the very beginning, and if she had leaned a little lower at the restaurant, he would have blown her head off. However, because Sasaki was too stupid, he did not do this, and they were able to get to where they are now. He immediately demanded that the girl take out the relic and begin copying her predictions into a notebook. The girl said that she left the relic at home, but Juhyun showed a symbol on her hand that could be used to summon the relic. Juhyun couldn't believe that she didn't even know such simple basics. Sasaki did as she was shown, and the relic was instantly in her hands. Then the hero ordered the girl to start writing and threatened that if she disobeyed and missed even one line, he would kill her. For a long time, Sasaki diligently rewrote the text, but at some point she faltered, and the hero asked why. Because she definitely wouldn't get a break. The girl explained this by saying that her hand was tired and sore, and also asked how much text needed to be written, and Juhyun replied that all of it. Sasaki promised to give the guy a prophetic relic, if only he would let her go. Juhyun refused and ordered her to continue writing. The girl had no choice but to continue. At this time, the hero thought that if he wanted the relic, he would have taken it for himself long ago, but did not do this because of the rank of the relic. It is one of the most powerful relics, so the likelihood of failure increases significantly, because even after subduing Muramasa, who is of a lower rank, his body was quite badly damaged. Moreover, he does not have any healing relics for such a case, and he is not going to take risks. Then Juhyun heard people begin to scurry around outside the door, and it turned out to be the Japanese army that had arrived at the scene. The commander ordered his subordinates to check all exits and every room. Juhyun noticed this and asked Sasaki how much she had managed to write. She replied that she was almost finished. The hero said that this was enough, and the girl, hoping, asked if she could leave. He put the blade in front of him, and Sasaki, in fear, began to beg him to spare her life and save her. Juhyun told her that she was really stupid for thinking that she was important to him. Also, the girl did not understand her relationship with the relic, because she thought that she herself was using it, although in fact she herself was a pawn in the hands of the artifact. And the only way for the girl to survive is to break her connection with the relic. Juhyun pierced the notebook with his blade, and the relic began to scream and slowly collapse. Seeing this, the girl was very surprised and soon fainted. Immediately, many windows opened for the hero with new skills and achievements for the destruction of a strong and evil relic. But Juhyun's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of military men, kicking down the door. The warriors did not understand what happened here, and also what happened to the relic. Juhyun simply and calmly answered them that the relic was almost destroyed. The commander began screaming in rage and ordering his soldiers to kill the guy immediately. But Juhyun only laughed at the military men, for they were too confident in their strength. The fighters, of course, were very surprised, and in the meantime the hero had already thrown them said thing. 3. The dropped item was said to be a relic that belonged to Kiyoshi. 4. The relic was a mochi for the taste of which one could be killed for, and after reporting this, Juhyun left without caring about the chase. 5. The general picked up the moti, assumed the guy was up to something. 6. Here the relic began to emit a strange odor that the military really liked. 7. Suddenly the men started throwing themselves at each other, trying to take the moti for themselves. 8. The general drew his pistol in a sharp movement, and shouted to his subordinates about disrespecting his superior officer, and that the moti should belong to him. 9. But the subordinates were not satisfied with this arrangement, and also drew their pistols, starting a real fight for the relic. 10. A short time later, Juhyun was flying to Las Vegas and reminiscing about a recent event. 1. In his opinion, there is no better relic for escaping than the housewife's mote, as it not only enchants the enemy, but also instantly teleports the wearer. 12. Even so, the hero decided that he now needed to deal with the predictions of the relic items. 13. Juhyun felt that if the TCWN group supported the use of the relic items, then Sasaki could very well have seen Director Kwan's gaze. 14. And if it was indeed true, the relic should have predicted it. 15. Juhyun was right, for the prophecy spoke of the hero's need to descend to the underworld of lust and deceit, and that the prediction of a great calamity would take effect. 16. The hero guessed that the dungeon meant the underground Midas auction in Las Vegas. 17. He remembered that young Master Sungwoo had been looking for information about Kwan in this very place, and had even found 3 people who appeared to be known to the broadcasting relic. 18. However, the last prediction of a great calamity alarmed the hero, and he assumed that it was a world catastrophe. 19. A world catastrophe is an event due to the enormous impact of relics on the world. 20. It was after this that the world became aware of tombs, and tomb looting began to gain popularity dramatically. 21. But the hero remembered that the world catastrophe did not begin soon enough. 22. Though he was more interested in some deity piercing the hero's greed to ask for cooperation. 23. So there will be a divine level relic at the auction. 24. Juhong suggested that Kwan's possession of this relic was the reason why he became so powerful in the past, meaning that the hero should definitely get it. 25. At this time, in the Japanese company's meeting room, Naked was discussing the situation with Sasaki, who had just regained consciousness but was still weak. 26. The reporter also reported that the lead relic had been completely destroyed. 27. It was also revealed that Captain Mori and his group were shooting at each other at the time and ended up being badly hurt and unable to make it to the meeting. 28. One of the heads started yelling that this information was irrelevant in this situation. 29. They tried to calm him down, but he kept saying that everything that had happened was no joke, and he couldn't sit still. 30. A woman watched the meeting from behind the door and reported on the phones the condition of the Japanese organization that had lost the relic items. 31. The man on the phone didn't understand how this whole situation could be created by just one person, to which the woman only confirmed the information. 32. The woman asked about organizing the necessary actions to avenge the loss, to which the man on the phone replied that it was not necessary. 33. The woman still didn't understand either, for everything they had continued in exploring the relic's belongings had gone down the drain. 34. The man, however, replied to her that there was another way to look at things, namely, if a guy had that kind of power, it was better to recruit him into your ranks. 35. The girl wasn't sure since the guy had destroyed an extremely important relic without a shadow of a doubt, and what was the chance that he wouldn't do it to their artifact as well. 36. She feared that Juhong might destroy the president's relic. 37. The man only laughed, because if you offer the guy money he will definitely agree, and she should only keep an eye on him. 38. After a time, already in Las Vegas, Juhong was waiting for the bandits he had sent here for information. 39. Just then, Sungwoo entered the room with another man, who the guard tried to stop. 40. Juhong rebuked them for being late, to which they only blamed the guard who wouldn't let them in for being late. 41. The security man explained that the Midas auction room and only the bidders could be here, though Sungwoo kept snapping at him. 42. The bandits were warned that if they continued to make noise they would simply be taken out, but they simply did not understand the foreign language. 43. Juhong rebuked Sungwoo for inappropriately addressing someone from another country. It's not normal for an American in his own country to be asked to speak Korean. 44. In plain English, the hero turned to the guard and informed him that the men had come to see him, and he would look after them. 45. The caretaker immediately apologized, to which the hero told him not to worry, because his act was very logical. 46. Sungwoo was greatly surprised at the hero's knowledge of English. 47. The one replied only that it didn't matter at the moment, and he needed the information he had gathered. 48. The bandits gathered all sorts of information about the three needed people, and Juhong praised them for a job well done. 49. It pleased him to think that men could actually be useful. 50. Sungwoo asked the hero if he had been able to find the right person, to which he answered in the affirmative. 51. The dossier that lay in front of him now was a description of the identity that Kwon Taejin had used in the past. 52. Juhong had checked the information about the valuable relic that would be auctioned beforehand. After all, there was a reason why Kwon would come here. 53. It is possible that this is the place where the divine relic will appear. 54. Sungwoo was very surprised that the hero was looking for some information in Midas' catalog. After all, only very rich people could afford such a thing, and if he was looking for profit, he would most likely be left with his nose. 55. Juhong's only thought was that he didn't see anything of value in the catalog, and then it became unclear what the prophetic relic was talking about. 56. While the hero was listing the relics he would be interested in seeing, Sungwoo just sat there puzzled, for he didn't understand what was going on. 57. Suddenly, he started yelling at Shuhong that he was joking because he didn't believe they were really talking about Midas. 58. The initial bids at the auction start at 10 billion won, and the bandits had no plans to buy anything at all, as they hoped to find only profitable connections. 59. The character, however, only laughed at the man's uncertainty about his inability to pay for the auction. 60. Then he simply headed for the exit to the bewildered exclamations of the bandits. 61. Since they're in Vegas, the gambling capital of the world, it's possible to get rich with just a small pile of money. 62. Sungwoo couldn't believe his ears that Ju-hong was really going to make money from gambling. 63. In his opinion, the guy had definitely lost his mind, though he was willing to disagree with him. 64. The number of digits on the index kept growing and growing without stopping. 65. The people around were just in shock. Just like Sungwoo, they said that the amount of winnings could go even higher. 66. And 01 believed that slot machines could show such numbers and advised Ju-hong to stop, because he could lose all his money in a moment. 67. Sungwoo couldn't shake the fact that the guy was able to earn several million won just by playing the machines. 68. Everyone asked how he was even doing it, to which Ju-hong just smirked and continued playing. 69. Feeling that he'd had enough of this machine, he simply took the check out of it and moved on. 70. He told the bandits to stop looking at him stupidly and follow him, for he was going to exchange the check for money. 71. The bandits couldn't believe what was happening, and told Ju-hong that such a sum was too much, and the big shots would definitely come to kill them. 72. The hero paid no attention to it, but then the casino guard stopped him, distracting him from his thoughts. 73. He said he'd like to examine the guy, because it's the first time they've ever had someone win that much money at once. 74. Ju-hong conscientiously agreed to the procedure. 75. When the hero was examined, he told the guard that it was useless to do so, because he had nothing, and the man was convinced of this, although he did not believe it. 76. Then he noticed a strange pendant on the guy's arm and decided to ask what it was. 77. Ju-hong, however, calmly showed it off, saying that this trinket he had bought recently because of the interesting color. 78. The man became convinced that this was indeed the case, but the hero knew more, for at first glance it seemed so, but in fact one of the axes lurked beneath this trinket. 79. Changing the shape of relics is a very important and basic ability of its owner. In addition, the golden axe has the ability to sense riches and valuables. 80. That is why the hero knows in advance which machine will be able to give him a jackpot, as well as in which casino you can get more money. 81. After a thorough check, the guard made sure the guy was clean and apologized. 82. Sungwoo wondered how the hero didn't get caught cheating and asked what the secret of his success was. 83. At this time, the casino employees also decided to check the machine, because they had never seen such a thing. 84. Ju-hong, on the other hand, simply said that they should go to another casino and asked them to stop being surprised by everything, even though the bandits kept insisting on revealing the secret of success. 85. The hero went to the front desk and handed over the check to get his money. 86. The girl was very surprised and said she had to take him to the VIP room. 87. To this, Ju-hong refused and said to just give him the money. 88. Already when the heroes were sitting in the restaurant, the bandits marveled that the guy was able to earn so much money. 89. They investigated about the fact that now they may not work at all, because this money may be enough for the rest of their lives, and they are just millionaires. 90. Ju-hong quickly cut short all their joy by saying that it wasn't their money and it wasn't what they needed it for. 91. The bandits agreed, but the pile of money still made a lasting impression on them. 92. Sungwoo asked the hero if it wasn't better for them to take that money back to Korea and not go to this auction, since he can afford absolutely everything now, to which Ju-hoon strongly disagrees. 93. His goal was the relics from the auction, and if he wanted to compete with Kwan, he needed to make some more money. 94. So to the bandits he told them to hurry up and finish eating, for they had another lap of the casino ahead of them. 95. Golden Axe felt an inordinate amount of money in the casino, and kept going on and on about the uncanny pleasure he gets from being in places like this. 96. Ju-hong, on the other hand, ordered him to shut up and find a profitable machine as soon as possible, to which the relic grudgingly agreed. 97. A window appeared in front of the hero's face, with a notification that the relic's friendship had been upgraded, for she had been brought to a place she liked. 98. It turns out that places with a lot of pain and suffering are the relic's favorite, but the hero doesn't want to make them feel good. 99.so he just decided to make a quick buck and get out. 100. But then suddenly one of the bandits called out to the protagonist. 101. He held Shuhong's backpack in his hands and didn't understand why it was twitching, or what was even in there. 102. The guy didn't understand either, so he just picked up the backpack and decided to look inside it. 103. The silver axe was behaving strangely, speaking of an unknown event that should happen very soon. 104. A gold axe can sense benefits, while a silver axe can find and tag people who are against the master. 105. Knowing this, Zhuhong didn't understand what the silver one was reacting to like this, and it alarmed him. 106. This time something incomprehensible was going on in the casino. Men were giving and fighting over money, accusing a friend of cheating and stealing. 107. The casino employees tried to put everything in, but people didn't hear them and kept yelling, accusing and trying to take away other people's money. 108. Sungwoo didn't realize what was going on around him, while a strange man with a knife in his hand and evil eyes appeared behind him. 109. He suddenly attacked the heroes with shouting and demands to give him all the money. 110. Shuhong had time to react quickly, and a couple of moments later, the man was already lying unconscious on the ground. 111. From his clothes, the hero concluded that the man was a local laborer, and asked if he was in his right mind to attack a man so recklessly. 112. Shuhong didn't understand what was going on. After all, there shouldn't be any gates opening in the place where they were. 113. But then he felt a strange intimidating aura coming from behind him and turned around sharply. 114. It turned out to be coming from a very pretty girl with long blonde hair. 115. The bandits liked her immediately, and began to speculate as to who she was by profession, and Zhuhong was not as pleased as they were. 116. He pulled the men back sharply and told them that he needed to get out of this casino immediately, even though the bandits didn't understand why. 117. Now the protagonist understood where such a crowd came from, and the girl he saw he didn't expect to meet here at all, and it made him terribly tense. 118. The girl's name was Irina Hilton, who was the youngest daughter in a family of bankers. 119. As the company was leaving the casino, a girl noticed it and became interested. 120. Divine relics are known to be very powerful, which means that a person who subdues them can easily rise among the rest of the people. 121. Such people began to be given nicknames known as divine titles, and these people had great prestige in the relic era. 122. And among them Irina Hilton possessed one of the most terrifying relics, because of which she was later called the goddess of bad luck, because everything that was near her lost luck. 123. Many have lost all their money because of her. Others have had their businesses consumed by her. The global financial crisis in the relic era was her fault, which is why you should stay away from her. 124. But then the girl noticed Zhuhong and decided to approach him, which the guy was greatly impressed by. 125. He decided that he would pretend as if he didn't see it and just walk away, but the girl kept screaming and trying to stop the hero. 126. Shuhong was about to open the door, but a window appeared in front of his face. 127. It talked about inflicting an always exhausted relic, and the fact that there are far fewer options for the hero to use the artifact. 128. After reading the information and realizing the gravity of the situation, the guy only got angrier. 129. But then the girl ran up to him from behind, turned him around, and with the most innocent look demanded that he stop and talk to her. 130. Zhuhong realized that there was no way to get rid of her. 131. At that moment, the girl touched the guy's hand, and the dark energy that emanated from her began to spread even stronger. 132. More and more pop-ups notified of the increasing negative effects on the relics and the reduction of their abilities. 133. Zhuhong quickly realized what was happening and abruptly yanked his hand out of his grip. 134. The girl was upset and apologized for her behavior, but she just got excited when she saw the guy, so she overstepped her bounds. 135. The bandits didn't understand why Zhuhong was acting this way, because seeing her he looked like he had met a ghost. 136. But then one of the men remembered who the girl was. He had seen her on TV and on the news. 137. He said her name was Irina Hilton, to which the others were very surprised to see the youngest daughter of the Hilton family live. 138. Irina kept pushing the guy, asking if he was the man who had won an unimaginable amount of money at the casino. 139. She said that after she found out about it, she looked everywhere for the hero. 140. The girl asked Juhong with hope in her eyes how he was able to achieve such incredible results. 141. The hero was very surprised that the girl of one of the richest families asks about winning in the casino, so he answered that he is not the one she needs. 142. Irina was very upset about him leaving, and Sungwoo immediately rushed to chase after Juhong. 143. OK called the hero a crazy fool, saying he just didn't realize who was in front of him, and tried to reason with him. Things the girl had come such a hard way to find him. 144. Juhong didn't listen to Sungwoo either, and the latter decided that he would approach the girl himself and explain everything, to which the hero became very angry. 145. He promised to stop the man just as he made towards the girl with shouts. 146. But the bandits at this time were already lying on the floor grabbing their stomachs from the terrible pain, and Irina just stood there asking for forgiveness. 147. So Juhong simply grabbed the men and dragged them along, alternately scaring them for disobeying. 148. Already on the street, the hero told the bandits to stay away from the girl by any means necessary, even though they didn't understand why. 149. Then he simply told the men to position themselves somewhere and guard the money so that when he called they would bring it to the auction. 150. Juhong was a little bit too much about not being able to earn some more money before the auction, but there was nothing that could be done about it, and one couldn't help it at the very beginning. 151. After a while, the hero was already at the auction, where there was a huge number of all kinds of people. 152. He kept thinking about the girl's strange act, and then from behind his back he was shouted at, and ordered to get out of the way and not look over the path. 153. The strange man said that this hall was for very important people, so the guy should leave. 154. Juhong recognized the man as Kwan's right-hand man, looking much younger now than he remembered. 155. The hero guessed that since he was here, so was Kwan, and at that moment, the principal appeared in the guy's field of vision. 156. Director Kwon Tae-jun was standing in front of the protagonist right now, and the latter was very happy about their long-awaited meeting. 157. In his past life, just before he died, Juhong swore that even from the other side of the world, he would get the director and take revenge. 158. In the most dangerous moment of the monster's attack, the hero keeps cursing the culprit of all his problems and the destroyer of his life. 159. Right now, Kwon didn't recognize Juhong and simply walked past with the most detached look possible. 160. The hero didn't dare to buy all the relics Kwon wanted in this one, and would surely remain victorious in this little battle. 161. But suddenly strange shouting and people's displeasure made the hero turn around and pay attention to the people around him. 162. Everyone had something strange going on. Some lost stock, others lost money, phones breaking, no cell service. 163. Juhong watched all of this and couldn't believe his eyes, for he refused to agree with what was happening. 164. And indeed at that moment Irina Hilton entered the room, which made the hero very angry. 165. Juhong tried to run away from her, but the girl noticed it and rushed after him to stop him, but he couldn't understand how she managed to notice him among so many people. 166. Irina kept making after the hero and asking him to stop and listen to her. 167. The girl said that she has a desperate situation, she can't do anything else and is really desperate. 168. Still continuing to walk away from the girl, but constantly looking back at her, Juhong didn't notice the wall in front of him and crashed into the glass surface. 169. The hero smashed his nose to the blood, and Irina asked the guy if he was okay, because she saw that he hit pretty hard. 170. Juhong got angry, because he definitely didn't look like a person who had everything in order, and also told the girl to stop following him, because all of this was happening because of her. 171. Irina instantly confirmed the guy's words, saying that that was exactly her problem. 172. The hero didn't understand why the girl gave such a strange answer. 173. She said the guy may not check into what she's about to say, but in her opinion the luck of the people around her hits dramatically when she comes in. 174. That's why she wants to be as lucky as he is, because that way she can make people happier. 175. Juhong remembered that in that life, she was the goddess of failure who had resolved the lives of a colossal number of people and lowered many nations. 176. That's why the hero wondered why she was acting so strangely and whether she was faking it. 177. Irina begged me to tell her how to become like Juhong, and said she would do anything for it. 178. She even said that if money was the problem, it wasn't that for naught, and she could pay. 179. Here in front of the hero's face began to appear a huge number of windows with information about some kind of increase in tolerance. 180. However, he remembered the relic in the form of a pill and the fact that the ability appeared just after consuming it, but he didn't understand how this power worked. 181. Shu Hong realized that the ability had activated, and it was because of the effects of the girl's divine relic. 182. He grinned a victorious grin, and Irina asked if he was okay and how he was feeling. 183. Here the hero said that he was all right, and he was just thinking, in connection with which Irina thought of the inappropriateness and vulgarity of his request. 184. Ju Hong decided that since she didn't understand the situation, there was no point in avoiding her. Plus, being around Hilton increased his tolerance. 185. The thought also entered his head that if she were with him at the auction, the possibility of success would greatly increase, and it would be possible to kill two birds with one stone. 186. But then he remembered his former principal, and decided to look around for Quan. 187. He was obviously not doing well, because he was yelling at his assistant as a factory in China suddenly caught fire, and he couldn't do anything about it. 188. Quan kept shouting and screaming, and Ju Hong realized that he too was affected by the relic. 189. Ju Hong thought that if a similar situation had happened to him in that reality, Quan would have left the auction long ago, but from the looks of it now, he didn't know about the goddess of failure. 190. Therefore, the hero considered that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and from this girl he can get a lot of benefits. 191. Ju Hong told Irina that her request didn't seem so bad, to which the girl was incredibly happy. 192. However, he warned her that getting lucky is very difficult, to which Hilton agreed wholeheartedly, and the hero offered to talk more about the details of the deal. 193. The guy also said that he should be attending the auction soon. 194. So if she doesn't mind, she can keep him company at the event, but also he will understand everything perfectly well if he refuses, because the ticket is quite expensive. 195. Irina of course agreed, because for her to buy a ticket is not a problem. 196. Ju Hong of course knew that for someone with finances like Hilton's, buying a ticket to the auction was like buying gum. 197. The hero was very interested in what the girl would eventually become after their acquaintance. 198. And so the auction began, and its hosts welcomed all the ladies and gentlemen present. 199. While the first lot was being announced, Shu Hong looked around the room where the event itself was being held, and it was practically empty. 200. After the hero allowed Irina to keep him company at the auction, then in just a few minutes the number of people decreased several times, because they went to solve their juicy cases. 201. And Director Quan didn't recognize even despite his burning factory, which means that one of the lots is very valuable since the man is willing to make such sacrifices. 202. While introducing the first item, Irina asked if the guy would buy or fight for not, because it looked valuable. 203. To which Juhun simply replied that his Li should not appear until the end of the first half of the auction. 204. While the hero had relatively free time, he speculated about his new companion. 205. It was hard for him to imagine that the girl in front of him and the goddess of failure were one and the same person, for in his memories she was different. Yet it wasn't like she was pretending. 206. The strangest thing was that Irina herself didn't realize why everyone around her had newspapers and decided to fix the problem. 207. The hero thought that since that was the case, this was only possible if the relic was tied to her forcibly. 208. He realized that originally the goddess of failure was a person with a good heart, but because of the relic affecting her, her heart had become corrupted and embittered. 209. While the hero was thinking about the plausibility of such a theory, the girl spoke up and said that she was very grateful for Juhong's help. 210. The character was very surprised, but it was important for Hilton to have someone listen to her and verify her words. 211. She felt so much better, the kind of eagerness she could talk to about her problems in peace, though it wasn't hard for a guy to do that. 212. At this moment in the window popped up information about the possibility of words relics of the girl, because of which the tolerance of the hero increased greatly. 213. The girl, however, kept blossoming in front of his eyes, never stopping to tell the hero about her gratitude and appreciation. 214. She was so happy that the hero even became uncomfortable, and the girl naturally began to radiate happiness along with the light. 2:15. The people around her realized what was happening, for suddenly the ground began to move. 2:16. Windows reappeared in front of Shuhong once again, warning of the increased strength of the girl's relic and the strengthening of the hero's tolerance. But the guy's relic was taking more and more damage. 2:17. The relics were screaming at the guy that they were ready to just rejoice and asking him to do something about it. 2:18. The hero didn't understand how a relic can be stronger if the owner is happier. But the girl didn't notice the guy's puzzlement, and didn't understand what the earthquake was about either. 2:19. Shuhong faltered that his tolerance was growing at an incredible rate, but if this continued, there would be nothing left of his relics. 2:20. He asked Irina not to rejoice before the time, because they had not even discussed the terms of the deal, to which she, although upset, agreed. 2:21. The character also warned that if the girl could become more fortunate, how could she guarantee it to the people around her as well? 2:22. Irina agreed to it, because he was right. There were no guarantees that everything would be exactly fine. 2:23. A window appeared in front of Shuhong, stating that the owner's mood had decreased, and as a result, the effects of the relic had decreased. 2:24. This time on stage, the announcer said that there may have been a small earthquake, and called the bid price of the first lot. 2:25. From the tasks immediately delve into a fairly high amount. Take off. All were greatly surprised, because the original price is much less and the act of man is reckless. 2:26. Everyone in the hall immediately started swearing, which Shuhong couldn't help but notice. 2:27. The hero quickly realized that the people around him had lost their heads due to the impact of the solemn relic. 2:28. And then a heroic idea came to his mind, for he could use it to get rid of all the remaining people. 2:29. Therefore, Shuhong said that she shouldn't be discouraged, because they can't say for sure whether or not her feature will affect other people's luck. 2:30. He offered to get back to business, saying that if she wanted to get luckier, the guy would tell her how to achieve it. 2:31. In a moment the girl's mood skyrocketed, to which the hero was very pleased. 2:32. He kept saying things to Irina that understood her mood, promising to help her get rid of all her problems. 2:33. Due to the fact that the power of the relic has once again increased, people around began to buy up all the presented lots. They spent money on useless but expensive things, thus playing into the hands of the hero. 2:34. For the reason that people had spent all their money in the first half of the auction, Shuhong was able to get his hands on all the relics he wanted with peace of mind. 2:35. There were of course a few artifacts that had to be fought over by Quan, who apparently wasn't caught in the effects of the sinister aura. 2:36. And it was all thanks to the high level of subordination of the director, at which the hero was very angry. 2:37. However, Shuhong's knowledge of relics is much more extensive, so the things the man took away weren't that useful. 2:38. The hero was already listing all the relics he could get, and remembered that the divine artifact that was foretold in the prophecy had not yet revealed itself. 2:39. The guy thought this was very strange, as the auction was already nearing its end. 2:40. Suddenly the girl asked the hero about his agreement to the terms of the deal, because she had the feeling that he was just stalling. 2:41. As the auction was coming to an end, Shuhong suggested that Irina move to a quieter place to discuss all the remaining details of the deal. 2:42. And then the host shouted the end of the auction, and asked for the last item to be brought out. 2:43. The almond tree that had been the talk of the press lately was introduced, which the hero as well as director Quan instantly took notice of. 2:44. The Kanisha elixir tree was a divine level relic, so also a healing type, so also with a rather high ego. 2:45. Shuhong immediately raised his hand with the clear intention of obtaining this item by any means necessary. 2:46. Director Quan also wanted to get the tree for himself, and the hero suggested that the man might know the true value of the relic. 2:47. Emperor Qin Shi was a powerful ruler in the Qing dynasty during whose reign there were rumors of finding extra life, which the emperor immediately sent his warriors to search for. 2:48. After many years of searching, the elixir turned out to be this almond tree, which in the guy's past life belonged to Principal Quan. 2:49. At that time, Shuhong was downloading from the killing effects of the relic and he needed the fruit from the tree, which soon became his payment for the work. 2:50. Simply put, this edit made the guy a slave to Quan, And now the hero knew where the man got such power from. 251. If this tree falls into the hands of the headmaster, Shuhong's life will become a repetition of his past, so he will try his best to take it for himself. 252. The presenter laughed with such activity of men and said that it is not surprising, because the fruit of this tree is famous for its ability to restore male power. 253. As soon as he voiced it, the guy and Quan felt perplexed, not understanding what this was all about. 254. Juhong began to feel very embarrassed. After all, Irina was beside him, who could definitely think something wrong. 255. The starting price was set and the director and the hero began to gradually raise the price, unwilling to cede the relic to each other. 256. But then suddenly the guy slowed down and looked around. 257. He noticed that other people sitting in the audience had also entered into a contest for possession of the tree. 258. Here, Director Quan shouted out a price of $10 million, to which his assistant was greatly surprised. 259. Shuhong was getting really angry, as he realized that the headmaster was not going to back down, as he clearly knew about the divine level relic with healing abilities. 260. The hero didn't know how much information the man had about the relic, but filmed that he certainly couldn't beat him for money. 261. So he turned to Irina and told her that their deal was going into effect right now. 262. He promised to find a way to solve her problem, but in return she must get him the item presented. 263. He also said it would benefit them both and asked if she agreed to such terms. 264. The girl of course agreed, because when it comes to money, she sure can't play around. 265. The price was increasing more and more every moment, and the people sitting in the hall were just watching the show, talking among themselves. 266. The host noted that they had already gotten close to the $50 million mark and also asked if anyone else wanted to bid. 267. Angry Director Quan decided to take a desperate step and shouted out the sum of $1 million. 268. Everyone around, as well as Shuhong himself, marveled at the mad measures the man had gone to in order to get the tree. 269. The hero knew that any amount above 100 million was a failure for him, which meant that he had no chance from the start. 270. The host asked if there was anyone else who wanted to raise the rate. 271. But here the hand was understood by Irina, who decided to take part in the fight for the lot. 272. She immediately offered that $50 million, and the guy at the time was thinking what a lucky yesterday it was for her to show up. 273. Like the presenter himself, everyone was in indescribable shock at the girl's act. 274. Director Quan, as well as his assistant, also couldn't hold back his surprise and stared at Hilton with incomprehension. 275. The man did not want to lose, raised the bet to $10 million, to which the surrounding people were only surprised, speaking of his firmness. 276. Irina, as if nothing happened, to rule the bet yes $200 million, while radiating complete calmness. 277. Quan didn't understand why the girl had decided to join now, and his assistant decided to suggest that the principal cease and desist before it was too late. 278. He explained this to the enraged principal by saying that the girl is Irina Hilton, who is the youngest daughter of one of the richest families. 279. The amount of money there is in using a girl is simply unthinkable, and there is no point in fighting her. 280. Quan was more and more dissatisfied with what was happening. 281. The director shouted out the sum of $220 million. And also that he wasn't going to give up after coming this far. 282. The rate kept increasing under the surprised cries of people, while Shuhong on the other hand just enjoyed the defense unfolding in front of him. 283. In the end, Shuhong and Irinka were able to beat Director Quan twice, and in the end, the tree elixir went to the girl for $500 million. 284. Sometime later, the heroes were sitting in a restaurant discussing the past auction. 285. Juhong assumed that the total amount was pretty big even for a girl, but the girl said it wasn't. 286. The hero smirked and said that was to be expected, but the girl was interested in her problem, and she asked the guy how he would solve it. 287. She assumed he would somehow pass the luck on to her or perhaps give her an amulet like a rabbit's foot. 288. Juhong replied that he didn't have anything to give her, to which Irina was greatly surprised. 289. The girl immediately thought that the guy had lied to her and was just using her, But that wasn't the case, and he asked to hear the whole thing through first. 290. The hero said that Hilton's problem cannot be solved by using the given talismans or other such items to help her. It is necessary, on the contrary, to extract something from her. 291. Irina, of course, didn't understand what he meant, to which Ji-Hong explained it as a need to give him something she owned to him. 292. Indeed, to solve the problem one must get rid of the relic of failure she possesses, and this would be the perfect opportunity for the hero to obtain a powerful artifact and capitalize on it. 293. He was sure that Irina had noticed a strange object that followed her everywhere, and by giving it to her boyfriend she could get rid of her problems. 294. Hilton wondered if she had something like that, and couldn't remember anything. 295. Ji-Hong didn't believe it, and suggested that she throw out the things she had and figure out which one was the right one. 296. Irina remembered that she had tried to do something like this before, but nothing had come back to her. 297. The hero then asked if her tattoo had appeared out of nowhere. 298. At this point Irina hesitated, letting the guy know immediately that he was right. 299. Relics can be divided into two kinds of general and personal, and if a tattoo has appeared, it is the first sign of possessing a personal relic. 300. That's why Sasaki Yuki also had a tattoo on her arm, because after forming a bond with your personal heirloom, the girl got a tattoo to confirm that bond. 301. Anyone can use a shared relic, but they have a limit. Personal relics, on the other hand, do not have one. However, they can only be used by one person, namely the owner. 302. All the monopolized relics from the guy's past were specifically personal, and the girl on second thought decided to show the picture. 303. Looking at the photo of the girl with the tattoo just a moment, the hero was horrified by what he saw. 304. Irina, seeing this reaction, asked if everything was okay and if there were any problems. 305. And the fact is that the girl's relic is a parasite, a rare type of artifact that forcibly infiltrates a person and resides there. 306. Because of the fact that her relic is of the divine type, the hero expected it to pass for Aaron's golden apples, but it turned out to be quite different, and the hero no longer realized what kind of relic was in front of him. 307. However, it was immediately clear to him that he would not be able to remove this relic from her body no matter how much he wanted to. 308. He informed Irina that he had originally thought of the task as something to help with, but apparently quite misguided. 309. So Ji-Hong gave the girl his phone number, and when they both have more time, they can meet and try to solve the problem together. 310. The hero decided that if he couldn't get the relic out of her, he would just make her an ally. After all, forming bonds is a good idea that can help in the future. 311. After the auction, the guy was told he could pick up all the items as soon as he paid their checks. 312. Ji-Hong asked to be given some time so he could call his underlings who would bring his money, to which the auction worker of course agreed. 313. But the beeps kept going on, and the bandits didn't answer, which the hero wasn't happy about. 314. The thought immediately settled in the guy's head that something about this situation was wrong. 315. He immediately remembered the saying about the cat left next to the tasty fish, for he left the men, leaving them all the money. 316. At this moment, Ji-Hong turned to the employee with a small request. 317. The hero immediately warned that there was nothing special about the request, but he would get a nice reward for it. 318. At the same time, the bandits were already running away as far away as possible. 319. The men ran and assumed that if they ran as far away as possible the guy would not get them. They also complained about the heaviness of the stolen goods. 320. Sungwoo agreed to stop and rest for a while, for he was as exhausted as the rest of us from the long run with heavy bags. 321. The men rejoiced at their sudden wealth, and said that the money was enough to live the rest of their lives without worry. 322. But suddenly there was a strange rumbling sound and strong gusts of wind behind their backs. 323. Shu-Hong appeared with accusations of stolen money, to which the bandits were greatly surprised, because they didn't understand how the guy could find it. 324. He actually managed to do it with a golden axe, and meanwhile men in the country were pacing away from the guy begging for mercy. 325. The hero advised the bandits to stop the flow of their apologies if he didn't want his head flying off his shoulders. 326. The men all apologized, and then Ji-Hong couldn't stand it anymore and decided to take advantage of something. 327. Sungwoo didn't understand what was going on, because the video in the guy's hand was only a stone, which is used to clean the soul, but the hero only asked him to look more closely, because soon he will understand everything. 328. Suddenly, the stone vibrated and Zhu Hong was already holding a stone slab in his hand and a powerful stone pillar appeared behind his back. 329. It was a code of laws created by King Hammurabi during the ancient Babylonian times, and this beautiful text contains one phrase that says gas for an eye, tooth for a tooth. 330. From this we can conclude that whatever the enemy does it will come back to him, so it is a great defensive relic. 331. It was one of the new relics that Zhu Hong had gotten at the auction, and was able to do so earlier thanks to the greatest favor to one of the workers. 332. So the hero decided to repay his deceivers in the same coin, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. 333. Suddenly, an incomprehensible light shimmered around the bandits' wrists, much to their surprise and fright. 334. Zhu Hong exhaled a sigh of relief seeing this. After all, he wasn't sure if it would work the way he wanted it to. But it looked like he was doubting for nothing. 335. As stated in Hammurabi's code, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, which means returning any attack, regardless of its level and strength, back to the opponent. 336. Since Hammurabi's code is law, the hero wondered if this relic could limit his opponent in the present and future. 337. This was the whole point of the law, and the bandits, meanwhile, stood in bewilderment at what had happened, for they did not understand at all what had happened. 338. Zhu Hong replied that there was nothing special about it, and what had happened could be considered the text of the item. Things from this point on, if men dare not betray, nothing would happen to them. 339. If they decided to turn something like that, their body would be torn to pieces, and the window that appeared only confirmed that guess for the hero. 340. The men, the guy described their situation as a signed contract to become his slaves, which the bandits were very unhappy about, not understanding on what grounds it was so. 341. Sungwoo was told by the other men that perhaps it was a question, for a stone pillar had just appeared here out of nowhere. 342. The bandit asked Zhu Hong if he was a psychic, to which he calmly agreed, tucking the stone into an inside pocket. 343. The guy also warned the men that the world was about to change upside down, but reassured them that they would be fine, because they were now his lovely slaves. 344. So it will be more valuable to them, and they will be rewarded for the work, but only if the work is executed properly and without problems. 345. He said that the bandits would be able to make even more money than was in the bag they were trying to steal, that they would be able to earn as much as possible in peace. 346. Sungwoo was dumbfounded but agreed. However, something was still bothering him. 347. He did not understand what exactly they were to do, to which the hero replied that they would soon see and understand for themselves. 348. The very next day, in an expensive hotel room. 349. It was already 9 o'clock in the morning and the bandits were in a room with bags of earth and a pot in front of them. 350. However, they didn't understand what was going on and why all this was happening. The hero on the other hand said that there was nothing special about it, because it was part of the job. 351. He pointed them to a tree that lay not far away, which came up with a low whine and scream. 352. The men's task would be to feed and grow the tree, which was clearly unhappy with its position, which it kept talking about, and the bandits couldn't believe what was in front of them. 353. Zhu Hong said that the tree from definitely won't bite, so they should hurry up and pot it up, and not make him repeat the duty again. 354. He also said that the tree was worth $500 million, which is why they had to be careful, and the tree was complaining about the new faces at that point. 355. However, he quickly changed from anger to mercy. England men treated him very gently, to which the editorial board said that was exactly how she should be treated. 356. Zhu Hong, on the other hand, noticed that the bandits had a fairly high level of ways to communicate with relics. 357. This night he managed to make a contract with the tree, but it winged so badly that the hero didn't get much sleep. 358. Plant exiles hate users with a high submission path, preferring users with a high communication path, so these guys are perfect for the role of tree babysitters. 359. Zhu Hong had given them this task because he himself didn't want to get his hands dirty, but he didn't even realize that they would be so good at it. 360. Then the phone rang in his hand and they were painfully familiar to the hero. 361. Even without having that number and saved, the guy will always remember it. 362. Director Kwon spoke into the phone, taking an interest in the hero, and began to tell about himself. 363. Shu Hong simply replied that he realized who was talking to him, and decided to get straight to the point, and asked him what he was calling about. 364. The hero assumed that since the director was calling him himself, he had already started digging for him. 365. Kwon got straight to the point, and said that he heard that it was Ju Hong who took the almond tree from Irina Hilton. 366. While the director was proposing a meeting about the tree, the hero wondered how quickly the man had gotten wind of everything. 367. But Shu Hong said that if it was about the almond tree, he couldn't say anything as he was very busy and had to end this conversation. 368. Director Kwon was naturally taken aback by this attitude, and his handmaiden asked how the conversation came about and if there were any problems. 369. Shu Hong didn't even listen to what the director had to say and just dropped the call, to which the handmaiden was greatly surprised. 370. The guy got angry too and assumed that Ju Hong just didn't have time to realize that it was the president, and was yelling what disrespect it was. 371. Kwon said that even if the guy is just an ignorant idiot, he still has the almond tree, and of all the relics the principal has seen, this one has the strongest aura. 372. The man knew that everything had to be bet on this relic to get it, but if not for the distractions of what he had received, it would have gone much better. 373. The guy in fear began to apologize, and he thought that all of this is not a bit of his fault, because he made everything only better in this situation. 374. He suggested that he would be the one to tackle the issue, but it's also the perfect chance for him to prove himself to the president. 375. The guy said he would take full responsibility for the situation to resolve the misunderstanding. He also asked if he could use any methods. 376. After all, Shu Hong is an ordinary simpleton, so it shouldn't be particularly difficult, and requested the director to use some of the company's relics for the case. 377. At the same time, the bandits asked the hero why he didn't answer the director of TCVM, and how the latter even knew him. 378. Sungwoo actually starts yelling that the guy doesn't watch the news, because Kwon is one of the most important bigwigs in their country. 379. Ju Hong simply took out an axe and threatened the man to chop him in two for his rudeness towards the principal, to which the man immediately changed his tone to a more benevolent one. 380. The guy warned that he didn't have to go out for long, and told the bandits to remember to make a daily photo report on the condition of the tree. 381. Afterward, he also shouted that if they did something stupid, he knew what would happen to them, to which Sungwoo shouted that he remembered perfectly well. 382. Ju Hong remembered that Kwon was the type of person who had his eye on something and would try to get it by any means necessary, which meant that he would soon try to track down the guy's location. 383. If he wants to keep the elixir intact, then the principal's men will have to be occupied. 384. Since the silver axe started to react, it meant that Kwon had started to act, and the guy was purposely walking in open areas to get his tail caught. 385. And in the end the effort didn't go to clean up, and he did well. 386. Sitting in one of the local bars, Ju Hong sat looking out the window at whoever was following him. 387. It was Yun Sherwoo, who appears to be working alone. 388. It can only mean that the company still looks down on the guy. 389. However, something caught the hero's eye, for the man clearly had a relic with him, with a faint but perceptible aura. 390. Shu Hong decided that this was only good for him, and grinned victoriously. 391. Yun Shiwu shouted into the tube, unable to understand how this could all continue. 392. Someone couldn't normally track one person's movements, so the man just didn't believe that the information was accurately accurate right now. 393. Wu shouted that if this continued, the man on the tube would not receive any compensation. 394. But suddenly something interrupted his angry tirade and made him look around him. 395. He spotted Ju Hong, who was quietly drinking a cocktail at the bar all by himself. 396. Wu asked him if he was Song Ju Hong, to which the guy inwardly cheered, because the man had taken the bait. 397. The hero chuckled at the fact that Wu didn't even realize he had fallen into his trap, and the man himself didn't understand why he was being treated this way. 398. Wu continued to draw attention to himself, but he was angry, because he was definitely sure the guy had heard him. 399. But Juhong didn't react, and an awkward silence hung in the bar. 400. Then Wu decided to act more decisively, and right in his ear started scolding the guy for being disrespectful, because when you are addressed, you need to respond. 401. But Juhong didn't let him finish and moved sharply towards the man, making even the bartender surprised. 402. From the surprise, Director Kwan's handmaiden miscalculated and fell on his back, hitting the floor painfully. 403. The hero asked the man where his manners were, for how dare he shout at someone he was meeting for the first time, and if he had any business with him. Again, the question should be respectfully asked. 404. Wu replied that the guy was the first to start all this, and Zhu Huang had already started to clearly feel the power of the relic, because the owner is nearby. 405. Nevertheless, he sent Wu to the hero, who was an experienced user of relics with many of them at his disposal, but something told him that there was more to it than that. 406. The man was very angry that he had been removed, while the guy wondered if he was still being left out, since only one had been sent. 407. In that case, he decided to take all the relics he had brought with him, so he began to rebuke Wu for his complete lack of manners. 408. But be that as it may, he realized that the man had business to attend to, so was willing to listen to him, at which the man boiled harder. 409. For Master Kwan's sake, Wu agrees to pretend like nothing happened, and since they met in Midas, the hero realizes what the occasion is. 410. But Juhong pretended he didn't see anyone resembling the man at the auction, to which he said that was a complete lie. 411. However, with Wu's clarification, the hero remembered him and said that he would be the one wiping his ass, old man Director Kwan. 412. Such a statement made the principal's handmaidens simply explode. 413. He started blatantly yelling at the guy for insulting him. 414. A window appeared in front of the hero, stating that due to the loss of self-control, the man also began to lose control of the relics, as the guy himself had assumed. 415. Wu has always been easily sold on provocation and is constantly trying to show how important he is because of his inferiority complex. 416. Once he was supposed to take a very big business, but made a mistake and lost everything. Only thanks to Kwan the man was able to achieve some success in life, so he works for him to rise in his eyes and bows his head only to the director. 417. In the past when Juhong worked for TCVM, Wu would take any opportunity to get to the hero, but if push comes to shove, he loses his mind and goes into a rage. 418. At one point he just yelled at the hero, threatening him with the relic and the fact that he wasn't going to get off that easy. 419. But the guy just turned around and walked away, paying no attention to the man. 420. That one kept shouting, and it's already proven that Wu is unable to control high-rank relics normally, because it just so happens that the control of relics is due to the minimal condition of the owner. 421. Juhong decided to take full advantage of this opportunity, and decided to say that he decided to play along by saying about Director Kwan who did call, but he needs the tree himself. 422. Wu didn't understand what they were trying to tell him. He wouldn't give up the trees so easily. 423. However, if he is asked politely, he can give it back, because the tree is a gift, so he can part with it easily if he wants to. 424. Wu was favorable to this arrangement, but didn't like it at all. 425. But he humbled himself and thanked for his cooperation and asked for the item to be given out sooner, as it was very important to the company. 426. By himself, he was angry that once he got the tree, he'd scatter the guy into little pieces. 427. But Juhong only laughed, for the man checked his words so easily, and said that he himself would like to have such a goon as his subordinate. 428. Wu boiled up finally and took out a bottle with a strange mixture from his pocket. 429. He cried out, attacking the hero, that he should have done this at the beginning, but now would make the arena his slave and kill him, though the hero was little impressed. 430. He tried to throw the vial at Juhong, but he managed to dodge, warning him not to do so. 431. However, nothing happened, and Wu didn't understand what was wrong or why nothing was working. 432. The moment the man was distracted, the hero wasted no time and grabbed him by the back of the head. 433. After which he sharply rammed his face into the wall, breaking his nose and saying that he had warned him of the consequences. 434. He said it was no surprise that nothing was working, since the handyman had lost all control of the relics. The window that appeared only confirmed this, reporting a downgrade of control from rank A to rank D. 435. Wu didn't understand how the guy even knew about relics. 436. The latter only agreed and took the vial from the man's hands, to the displeased exclamations of the former. 437. Ju-hong realized that it was a mind-affecting relic, and he was now its rightful owner. 438. Since the guy's power of control is pretty good, the relic quickly agreed to be completely at his disposal. 439. Then he squeezed out some liquid on Wu as he begged not to, agreeing to anything but what was happening. 440. The relic turned out to be a zombie powder voodoo priestess who belonged to the A rank and had one very interesting feature. 441. Voodooism originally spread in Africa, at a time when there were many slaves, and one of its beliefs was to turn humans into zombies as a responsibility for committing sin. 442. All sorts of rumors and gossip created a backbone of knowledge because of which many believed it to be true, which gave birth to this relic. 443. If you touched or spilled that powder, you'd lose your mind and become a zombie, and that's perfect for Wu, because then it would appear that he was defeated by his own relic. 444. What happened should slow down Quan's actions against the hero, so he should hurry up and get all the relics. 445. It was the perfect time for Ju-hong to leave this place. 446. Some time later, Director Quan, in a very northern mood, arrived at the police station. 447. While he was observing Wu, who was in a cell, the employees asked if it was his employee. 448. Quan, on the other hand, only kept silent, which displeased the investigator very much. 449. Those who came along with the director confirmed this information, saying that the man in front of them is the head of Yun's department. 450. Prior to that, news broke that a Korean man had stripped in Las Vegas last night, and police officials speculated that he was either under the influence of drugs or went insane. 451. After hearing all of this, Director Quan got really angry and checked on his phone to see if it was really true. 452. One of the employees asked what they should do, since they couldn't close the incident since Wu hadn't come to his senses yet, to which Quan said they couldn't disobey his orders. 453. Not just in America, as information about the incident reached Korea as well, so his name was stomped in the mud, all because of douchebag Wu who embarrassed him so badly. 454. The director also demanded that all relics used by the man be brought in immediately. 455. But the workers apologized and said they couldn't do that. 456. When Wu was discovered, he no longer had anything on him, and apparently all the relics had either been confiscated or stolen by someone. 457. One suggestion to start the places Mr. Yoon has visited to find what is needed. 458. Director Quan interrupted him, saying that it wasn't necessary, because it was already clear who had done such a thing to the man and taken all the relics. 459. The workers were greatly surprised by this arrangement, because the fact that someone had done this to Wu, who is a professional relic user with tremendous skills, was unthinkable to them. 460. The director confirmed, saying that Song Ju-hong definitely did it, and maybe there was someone behind him, or he was also capable of using high-level relics. 461. So Director Quan said to send his employee and assistant Li Jia to the guy. 462. After all, Ju-hong is just a little kid who will definitely sit quietly if someone gives him a tasty candy. 463. After a time at Las Vegas International Airport. 464. Sung-woo asks what new stuff Ju-hong brought, to which the latter rebukes him and tells him to call him Hyungnim. 465. He told the man to be careful not to lose anything of his belongings, though the man wasn't sure the vial was such a valuable item. 466. Ju-hong, on the other hand, was glad that he had been able to get so many relics from this place, and all that remained was to get them safely to Korea. 467. Back home, the hero was able to obtain an Egyptian funeral blade, gold and silver axes, a lifeline, and Muramesa. 468. The Midas auction, he owed the Hammurabi Code, Shakespeare's feather, Marie Antoinette's pendant, and most importantly the Emperor of Qin's tree of elixir. 469. From Yunshin Wu, the hero managed to pick up zombie powder, foxtail grain, and Homer's glasses. 470. This was more than enough for the initial number of relics in his use, and from this day onwards, he would be able to get his hands on even more relics. 471. But then he was accosted by an unknown girl who introduced herself as a special agent working for TCVM. 472. Ju-hong realized that this girl was Director Kwan's second henchman. 473. However, he was curious to know exactly what she was up to.